Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Early Morning Greeter. I got some more stories for you. Here's a good one. I really love the drawings in this one. It's one of my favorite illustrators of all time, Chris Van Allsburg, and this one's called Two Bad Ants. Look at that. Isn't that cool? With all those lines. The news traveled swiftly through the tunnels of the ant world. A scout had returned with a remarkable discovery, a beautiful, sparkling crystal. When the scout presented the crystal to the ant queen, she took a small bite, then quickly ate the entire thing. Ooh, that looks like a cool crystal. Look at, she's eating the whole thing. She deemed it the most delicious food she had ever tasted. Nothing could have made her happier than to have more, much more, and the ants understood. And they were eager to gather more crystals because the queen was the mother of them all, and her happiness made the whole ant nest a happy place. We should get some more crystals then, right? I think they're gonna. It was late in the day when they departed. Long shadows stretched over the entrance to the ant kingdom. One by one, the insects climbed out, following the scout, who had made it clear there were many crystals where the first had been found, but the journey was long and dangerous. They marched into the woods that surrounded their underground home. Dusk turned to twilight, and twilight to night, and the path they followed twisted and turned, every bend leading them deeper into the dark forest. More than once the line of ants stopped and anxiously listened for the sounds of hungry spiders, but all they heard was the call of crickets echoing through the woods like distant thunder. Dew formed on the leaves above. Without warning, huge, cold drops fell on the marching ants. A firefly passed overhead that, for an instant, lit up the woods with a blinding flash of blue-green light. Ooh, I bet you that was beautiful. At the edge of the forest stood a mountain. Wow, look at that. Is that a mountain? Look carefully, friends. The ants looked up and could not see its peak. It seemed to reach right to the heavens, but they did not stop. Up the side they climbed, higher and higher. The wind whistled through the cracks of the mountain's face, and the ants could feel its force, bending their delicate antennae. Their legs grew weak as they struggled upward. At last, they reached a ledge and crawled through a narrow tunnel. Ooh, good job, ants. Ooh, what does that look like to you? Interesting. Looks familiar. When the ants came out of the tunnel, they found themselves in a strange world. Smells they had known all their lives, smells of dirt and grass and rotting plants, had vanished. There was no more wind, and, most puzzling of all, it seemed that the sky was gone. They crossed smooth, shiny surfaces, then followed the scout up a glassy, curved wall. They had reached their goal. From the top of the wall, they looked below to a sea of crystals. One by one, the ants climbed down into the sparkling treasure. Wow. Quickly, they each chose a crystal, then turned to start the journey home. There was something about this unnatural place that made the ants nervous. In fact, they left in such a hurry that none of them noticed the two small ants who stayed behind. Uh-oh. Way to go. Why go back? One asked the other. This place may not feel like home, but look at all these crystals. You're right, said the other. We can stay here and eat these tasty treasures every day forever. So the two ants ate crystals after crystal until they were too full to move, and they fell asleep. Uh-oh. I wonder what those crystals are. Let's look very closely with our eyes to get clues. Then the giant spoon stirred violently back and forth. Crushing waves fell over the ants. They paddled hard to keep their tiny heads above the water, but the scoop kept spinning the hot brown liquid. Around and around it went, creating a whirlpool that sucked the ants deeper and deeper. They both held their breath and finally bobbed to the surface. gasping for air and spinning mouthfuls of the terrible, bitter water. I wonder what that brown liquid was. Then the lake tilted and began to empty into a cave. Oh no, is that a cave? The ants could hear the rushing water and felt themselves pulled towards the pitch-black hole. Suddenly the cave disappeared and the lake became calm. Ooh, boy. The ants swam to the shore and found that lake had steep sides. Is that a lake, I wonder? They hurried down the walls that held back the lake. The frightened insects looked for a place to hide, worried that the giant scoop might shovel them up. Close by, they found a huge round disc with holes that could neatly hide them. Uh-oh, should they go into those holes? But as soon as they had climbed inside, their hiding place was lifted, tilted, and lowered into a dark place. When the ants climbed out of the hole, they were surrounded by a strange red glow. It seemed that every second the temperature was rising. It soon began so unbearably hot that they thought that they would soon be cooked. But suddenly the discs they were standing on rocketed upward, and the two hot ants went flying through the air. Oh my goodness, I wonder what those were. They landed near what seemed to be a fountain, a waterfall pouring from a silver tube. Both ants had a powerful thirst and longed to dip their feverish heads into the refreshing water. They quickly climbed along the tube. As they got closer to the rushing water, the ants felt a cool spray. They tightly gripped the shiny surface of the fountain and slowly leaned their heads into the falling stream. But the force of the water was much too strong. Uh-oh. The tiny insects were pulled off the fountain and plunged down into a wet, dark chamber. They landed on half-eaten fruit and other soggy things. Suddenly the air was filled with loud, frightening sounds. The chamber began to spin. Uh-oh. The ants were caught in a whirlwind storm of shredded food and stinging rain. Then, just as quickly as it started, the noise and spinning stopped. Bruised and dizzy, the ants climbed out of the chamber. Oh my goodness, they're lucky they didn't get hurt. By daylight, once again, they raced through puddles and up a smooth metal wall. In the distance, they saw something comforting. 2 long, narrow holes. That reminded them of the warmth and safety of their old underground home. They climbed up into the dark openings. Uh-oh, should they go into those holes? But there was no safety inside these holes. A strange force passed through the wet ants. They were stunned, senseless, and blown out of the holes like bullets. When they landed, the tiny insects were too exhausted to go on. They crawled into a dark corner and fell fast asleep. Oh my goodness, these ants have gone through a lot. They look so tired, but I'm glad that they're okay. Night had returned when the battered ants awoke to a familiar sound, the footsteps of their fellow insects returning for more crystals. The 2 ants slipped quietly to the end of the line. They climbed the glassy wall and once again stood amid the treasure. But this time they each chose a single crystal and followed their friends home. Good idea, right? Standing at the edge of their ant hole, the 2 ants listened to the joyful sounds that came from below. They knew how grateful their mother queen would be when they gave her their crystals. At that moment, the 2 ants felt happier than they had ever felt before. This was their home, and this was their family. This was where they were meant to be. Right? Good. Whew, I'm so happy they made it home. And they got those crystals, right? 2 bad ants. I hope you liked it, and I'll see you again soon. Bye, friends.